Hello friends, welcome back to my channel again. Today I'm doing an excruciatingly painful thing to do. I'm unhauling some books today. I'm someone who's constantly collecting books. Also, I do booktube, so I end up buying more books than I care to admit to read. So eternally, I keep on accumulating books that I don't have space for, and my bookshelves end up like this. It is overflowing, it is not having any organization now, and I'm just basically stacking books here and there, and it is complete chaos. And I know that I'm going to buy more books, and there is one more huge reason why I'm doing this unhaul because there is my annual book fair in Chennai coming up in December, this time much earlier. So I am definitely going to buy a lot of books there. I need space for them. And these are the books that mostly I haven't read. It's been on my shelf for so long, and I know for sure that I'm not going to read them. Or there are some books that I've read and I don't connect to, and I want to get rid of them. They don't give me any pleasure anymore looking at those books on my shelves. So I'm getting rid of those. Some I'm gifting to my friends who I know would enjoy it more than me. Some I'm just getting rid of. So without further ado, let's jump right in. And I have 30 books to talk to you about. I'm going to grab whatever comes to my hand and let's see one by one why I'm unhauling them. So the first book that I'm going to unhaul is a book box, and it's a trilogy, and it's quite a famous one, and that is the Folk of Air trilogy by Holly Black. I bought a lot of stuff when I started booktube because at those time a lot of books were famous and I wanted to get to know all those books. So that is why I bought this one, and I bought directly the box instead of buying the first one. I did not read it actually. I started reading it. I tried multiple times. It did not connect with me, but I know someone who will just devour this in just a day or two, and I'm going to give them to them. And the box itself is very pretty. Look at it. The first one, The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. I do think that it is a good one, but I hope that my friend enjoys this more than I do, so we are getting rid of these three books. So next is a book that I have already read, but I did not like a bit. I gave it 1 star, I think. In a famous booktuber's channel, I found this, and I kind of very much interested in Greek mythology. So this was a Greek mythology retelling, a modern retelling of Hades and Persephone, and I wanted to know what the story is about, but this one disappointed me to hell, and it is The Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This is basically smut with a plot, which I did not care much for. I don't read romance, I don't read smut, I don't read spicy novels. Not that people who are reading them are wrong, but it's just not for me. I don't read those kind of stuff. This was so disappointing for me that I had to get rid of this. The moment I see it on my shelves, it is really very off-putting. So I have to get rid of this one. And speaking of Hades and Persephone, there is one more retelling of the same person, of the same Greek mythology, and this is Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. This also was huge in internet when I started booktube, so I went for it and I read it. It is much better than the Neon Gods, but it is done in a magical realism. There are loose retellings of Hades and Persephone, so I did like it, but not as much as I would have expected it to. So I'm getting rid of this too. It does not bring any more joy to think about it or to read it. I'm never going to read it again, so I'm getting rid of this one. Next is a thriller book, and most of the times thriller books give me such a pleasure, but sometimes it goes so offbeat for me that I end up hating it. And one such book for me is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This was plain, this was boring, this was not at all what I expected. And the fact that this was kind of a retelling of my most favorite book, And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, was such a disappointing read. They could have done so much better, but not that I am spreading any hatred for any author or any book. These are all my opinions about my experience with the book. It's only personal. I'm not trying to generalize anything. If you have enjoyed this book, good for you, but they did not work for me. Next up, I have two romance novels. I bought it in an old bookstore, but I don't think I'm ever going to read that because I'm not a romance reader, and the format of the book is also very small sized font and everything, so I'm not naturally drawn to it. So I might as well pass it along to someone who is very much interested in reading romance books. And I have two books here. The one is A Whiff of Scandal by Carol Matthew, and the other is Katie Freud's Highland Fling. Both these books are nothing I can know of. I just know that it is set in summer, and one is set in summer and one is set in winter, and both are romances in countrysides of England and Scotland. So I hope it would be good, but I'm not willing to try it anymore. So that's about it. So the next book I want to talk to you about is a very famous book, and I loved the movie. I've watched it multiple times. I wanted to read the book, but every time I pick it, I end up not reading it, not liking it. So I didn't want to destroy my experience of watching that movie and loving that movie by forcing myself to read this book. So I might as well stop trying and just pass it along. And the book is Life of Pi, and this is by Jan Martel. You might have already know about the movie. It was very, very well done. It cost such a stir a long back, and I thought I would like to read it, but I'm not going to read it. So here I am passing it along to someone who would like. So Life of Pi is a no for me. The next book is kind of a funny incident. I wanted to buy a book by Stephen Fry, who's a very famous writer, and I thought I was buying a Stephen Fry book, and look what I bought. I bought a book by Stephen Fry, who's someone I don't know, and I thought I was buying a Stephen Fry book. It's called Forced Out. I don't know what this is about. I got it in an old bookstore, and every time I see it, I only think that this is not Stephen Fry, it's Stephen Fry. So I don't think I'm not going to read it anymore. So I'm just unhauling it. Next is a very interesting book. It was very, very famous a few years back. It's called This Is How to Lose the Time War. And this is a very famous book for a long time. And I wanted to read it. People who have read it have liked it. But somehow when I read, I couldn't make sense of anything. I read around 20 to 25 pages of this, but I didn't know where the story was going on. It was so abstract, and I was trying to force myself a lot, but it did not work for me. But whoever has read it and enjoyed it, very good for you, but this did not work for me, so let's move on. Next is a book that I don't know where it came from, and this is by Danielle Steele, The Sins of the Mother. This has been with me for quite a long time now, and I haven't read it, and I don't think I will ever will. That is all I can say about this book. And I have read one book, I think The Accident by Danielle Steele, which I liked, and there was a movie, a Tamil movie about it. So I was interested in Danielle Steele book once. So I don't think I'm going to enjoy this, so I'm passing it along. Next is a book that you might be very upset that I am unhauling it because it's very famous, very, very well loved, but I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. That is Verity by Colin Hoover. Now, there is a very specific reason why I'm unhauling this, because this is much similar to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So I have heard from the channel A Clockwork Reader. Hannah has made a comparison between Verity and Rebecca. Rebecca is one of my most favorite books of all time, and I don't want to read a poor adaptation of that masterpiece. That is how she projected it, and that put me off for reading this book. If you like Colin Hoover, good for you, but this book, I don't think I will ever enjoy as much as I read Rebecca and enjoyed. So I'm getting rid of this. Next up, we have two middle grade books. One I have read and one I haven't. And the one I haven't read is called The Once We Were Witches by Sarah Driver. This has been with me for, I think, 4 years now, and I haven't picked it up. That says a lot about my intentions with this book, because when it comes to middle grade, I immediately devour once I buy them, or within a year it should be over, but it's been on my shelf for 4 years and I did not read it. The reason behind that is I think it is much younger for my age. Like, it is way too childish for me to read this. It has illustration, it's good. Maybe I can give this to some child who will be very, very interested and age appropriate to read. So that is about it. I haven't read it and I'm passing it along. The one that I've read and I was irritated to hell while reading it was because it projected itself as a middle grade book, but it had a lot of disturbing ideas for a child. It was more of a YA than middle grade. So marketing a YA book as a middle grade and polluting child's mindset was something I was against of. So this was such a disappointment. It is such a disappointment once more, because look at this cover. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it screaming winter? And it's so beautiful. But this North Child by Edith Patou is something that is not bringing me any joy when I look at it in my shelves. I have read it, but I did not care for it. I don't recommend this, and especially if you are trying for a middle grade, I don't recommend it. If you think about it as a YA, it is okay. It is a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but I don't like this a bit. So that's about it. So the next set of 15 books are all of same edition. They all are classics, and they are all Pan Macmillan classics in collaboration with Crossword. all these books was under discount when I bought them. So I went crazy for them. I bought all the books, almost all the titles that were available with them. And I regretted it very deeply after that. Because when it comes to classic, I think I have mentioned it before in my earlier videos. When it comes to classic, I want that to be in a specific format, in a specific font style, in a specific paper quality in order to be able to read it and enjoy it. For an example, Penguin Classic Black Spine books are really the my type of books because I read Crime and Punishment in it and I loved my reading experience in it. But these books are not giving me any joy. I read only one book, I think, Around the World in 80 Days from this collection, but I could not pick up any book after that. And it's just occupying my bookshelves unnecessarily. And I think I want to collect classics when I really want to read them in a specific format, in a specific edition, particular to the title, not just of random collection. I want to collect the books only when I want to read them deeply. So here we are decluttering my bookshelves from this 15 books, and I'll just show you the titles. There's nothing much to talk about. They're all classics and I don't have anything against the book, but I only don't like the edition. So I will definitely try reading them all in a different edition in the future. So let's grab one by one and see what the titles are. The first one is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This is one of my favorite one, Louisa May Alcott's Little Woman. Dubliners by James Joyce, Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. This is the one that I read and I think I enjoyed reading it, but look at the font size here. Do you see what I'm talking about? This is incredibly small for classics and it's really very tough to read. Tess of Gibberwells by Thomas Hardy. I do want to read this book, but very soon I will get a different edition, so I'm getting rid of this one. And we also have Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, Tenet of Whitefell Hall by Anna Bronte, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, Moby Dick by Herman Melville. This one also I read, but not in this edition. I started it in this edition and I then switched on to Audible because of the font size, like I said. So this is a good book, but a bit boring. Then I have three huge books that I could use as a weapon if I wanted to. The first one is Bleak House by Charles Dickens. Look at the size of this book. And it's surprisingly floppy, which I like in a book, but the font size, again, it's turning me off. The next huge book is The Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens again. Look at the size of this. I wondered what's the page number. Okay. It is of 900 pages and this is how it's looking like, and it is again very floppy. And the last book that we are going to unhaul today is yet again a Charles Dickens book, and that is David Copperfield. And look again at the size of this book and its floppy nature. That is why I bought these books, that I thought I will enjoy this floppiness and everything, but I ended up not liking it. So that is pretty much it, guys. I think my bookshelves are getting some breathing space now that I've took down 30 books, and it's going to be full again. I'm sure of it. I'm going to buy more. I'm going to go crazy in the book fair that's coming up in December in Chennai. And that's about it. I'm feeling much lighthearted now and I'm happy that I'm getting rid of all these books. So until I see you again in a very next video with a bookish content, this is Sushmita signing off. Keep reading. Bye-bye.